Two brothers talking loud and clear, breaking the silence, no fear in here. Baseline thumping, hearts draw near.
So,
Faith and beats, yeah, we're riding the wave. Truth in the rhythm like a stone from the grave. From the wood to the mic, we're paving the way. Two brothers talking, yeah, we're walking the walk. Faith on the beat, real talk, no chalk. Bounce to the truth, let the speakers unlock. Two voices, one mission to spark.
all right,
Light in the dark like a flame in the park.
I think we're good.
Brothers talking, let the journey
And we are
walk.
live. That's a little AI music in the background that Mark and I put together. So, shout out to AI.
Two brothers talking loud and clear, breaking the silence, no fear in here. Baseline thumping, hearts draw near.
On the side there. Okay. All right. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. So first, good morning to anybody that comes on live and checks us out, or checks us out later. This is the Two Brothers Talking podcast. Because typically Two Brothers Talking. Today there is a different brother on the other side of the table from me, and I'm really thankful and blessed to have my son Chris join us. So we're gonna have a little bit of a different session. Mark and Beard, they had a family conflict, but families first. So taking care of that families first, which is also why Chris is here. So thank you for joining me, and I love you, and I'm glad that you're on the podcast with me.
Thank you for having me. I love you too. Excited.
Good. So well, first I'm gonna stop the music so that y'all are not having a battle between the music and me and Chris. So today's topic, to just jump right in, is being under pressure, the reality of what young men today experience, and some of the challenges they have. And we'll kind of frame this up in the typical way that we typically said typically twice, in the way that we usually go about our podcast. So that's like a little bit of, here's what we're talking about, defining, making sure that everything's clear. So I might ask you for how you would define some things in your own words. I'll define them, and we'll just make sure we're talking about the same thing. And then we'll talk through how those things show up in life and how they show up for you as a young man today. And then we'll talk about some tools and things that people can use to combat those things. And we'll be just really frank and vulnerable. I think this is your first podcast of any kind.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the thing I would impart to you would be, we're just having a conversation.
Got it.
And to be as vulnerable or honest as you want to be.
Yes, sir.
So I'll kind of guide us along, but I'm really thankful to get your perspective, because you're gonna have a perspective that me and Mark can never have in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
We would have had that perspective about 2005. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like your perspective today, 2005 is not 2025. It's just like 2005 is not 1990. Mm-hmm. Like it's every 15 to 20 years, like the human experience for anybody of any gender, any background, mm-hmm. changes. And there's some things that say the same, but a lot of things don't. Mm-hmm. Right. So just to get us started, I would say I want to ask you a little bit about, like, how would you define pressure before we talk about what they are and what they could be and how they show up? How would you define things that make you feel pressure? Like things, and I'll give you an example. Something that makes you think about something that makes you feel less than, something that makes you feel trapped, like something that, things like how would you define, using some of those things as examples, how would you define pressure, or what does pressure do to you?
For me, I kind of see pressure personally as something testing me that mm-hmm. I wouldn't feel at ease with.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So if something comes secondhand to me, I don't feel like that. To me, I don't feel like that's personally pressure. But even if it's like a slight test where I would have to think about it a little bit or act differently, mm-hmm. I feel like that's pressure.
You said act differently.
Mm-hmm.
So what would make you have to act differently? Like something like, are you saying where you'd have to accommodate somebody's expectations, maybe? Or
Yeah, sometimes, or even I guess the easiest example that comes to my head is trying to apply for certain jobs. I might have to feel a little more, act a little more proper, just
okay,
being open and vulnerable. Feel like I have to act a little more proper than I usually carry myself. Might carry myself laid back, and if I'm applying for something and I feel like I really need this job, that pressure,
hmm
I feel like that acting part is is me trying to accommodate to get the job.
so okay, no, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Mhm.
What you just said, the first thing I thought about as you were talking was like when you go to when a lot of us, like especially if you grew up in church, you typically, depending on what kind of church you go
Mhm.
to, a lot of larger churches, they've gotten very uh lax, I think, as it relates to attire. So there's not this pressure. They kind of have this come as you are deal,
Yeah,
which is fine. So I think like maybe if you went to that kind of church, you don't have that pressure. But if you go to like a traditional church,
the
you know,
Sunday's best.
the Sunday's best, like
Mhm.
you do feel, one could argue like that's pressure. One could argue that's like a small example, but like that's an example of having to be something on Sunday that you might not, or represent something on Sunday you don't represent every day,
Mhm.
right? But I think it also calls out that behind that suit is still the same person, or at least it should be.
Yes.
And as the person who's going to show up to work on Monday and come home at night on Monday evening, like it should be all the same person.
Mm.
But what I'm hearing from you is like sometimes maybe even that identity crisis is a pressure.
Yes, sir.
Is like being those things to everyone can feel like pressure.
Mhm.
Um, I would define like pressure today, that in this context, as, yeah, most of the words you use, like I think it's something that makes you feel like you. I do think trapped is a word I would use again. Like I think if you're feeling like you can't, like you don't have an alternative, or you don't know what to do, I think that's pressure. I think just not knowing what to do is pressure by itself.
Mhm.
You encounter a problem. I mean, imagine something simple. Your car breaks down. Like that's pressure. If you don't know what to do and you don't have anyone to call, that can feel like breaking pressure.
Mhm.
Something that tactical, you know. Um, or if you get sick and you don't know what to do, or somebody around you is sick and you don't know what to do, that you can feel a lot of pressure from that too. And the other thing that pressure makes me think about is there's this. I feel like pressure at times could be an experience where you feel like you are obligated to do something that you don't necessarily agree to do. So for instance, I feel obligated to. I'll use just keep it real, like super simple. I feel obligated to do this, to do something for you,
Mhm.
periodically, where like deep down I really don't agree that I should have to do that. I think that's a pressure. And I think young men today, particularly like you, if you're early, you're getting out of the house, or you've been out of the house for a little bit and you're trying to figure it out. And young men, I'll qualify is like, let's say, 17 or 16 to 30,
Mhm.
that kind of range. So go all the different stages of life you can go through in that range. I think oftentimes folks in that age group, excuse me, in the age group, they're trying to figure out like, w- what am I obligated to do and for whom?
Mhm.
And then alternatively, what is anybody obligated to do for me? And what do I get out of that? I think that, like, that simple equation is a big part of the pressure that I remember going through, and
Mhm.
I don't think that part has really changed, because that pressure is not about really life. The pressure is about the evolution of you as a man, where you go from a baby being taken care of to a kid learning to take care of yourself, but not taking care of yourself, to a young adult to now you're applying what you learned and then understanding all the stuff you didn't know and learn. And then as a mid, let's call it 30 plus adult, where you're like, okay, now everything you apply new is going to be something you've learned since. Like it's not going to be something you've learned as a kid. It's going to you've applied all you got, whether you weren't listening or you didn't understand it or whatever, like, or you didn't get taught, because some of that's on parents. But now you're applying only what you learned new. And I think that's a lot of pressure to figure that out. So I don't know, that's the way I would kind of define it, I guess, in context. And I guess, like, what about, so you mentioned like the identity thing is interesting. What about relationships? What relationship pressures do you feel like are present in, like in your life? You don't have to be super specific if you don't want to, but like just general. What are or even some of your friends that you talk to, because you have a good friend group that you've known for a long time. What are some of those pressures that are specific to relationships?
I'll speak on the friend relationships first. Those pressures I can feel at times. I might need to uphold uphold a right or wrong. I feel like I might need to uphold a not a certain image, but a certain standard of my friend in my friend group. So they know me, I've known them. We all know each other's good and bad, but I typically I I get across, and one of my friends has shared across with me that they feel like I'm the most brought along, might be a good word for it. And, and everybody's path is different, but they might feel like I can lead them somewhere. So I moved out of the house, and so one of my friends, he's ready to move out of the house, and then another one might follow, something along that line. So sometimes I might feel it's pressure, like if I'm not moving along in my life, I might not be setting up in my friend's life, because they don't see me as a leader, but they might see me as a leading example. And that's one of my friend pressures. With relationship, I am in a relationship. Been in a relationship for 2 years, and we've moved in together. Um, and I think some of the pressures. Thank you. I think some of the pressures there. Uh, there's, of course, like, I would call them like daily pressures. Like, is our light bill going to be good? Food going to be on the table? Is she going to be healthy? Am I going to be healthy? Have a cat. Is the cat going to be fine? But then there are also some long-term pressures, and it's not hard pressures, but there are long-term pressures, as in, like, okay, now I'm 25, moved out. We've been moved in for a couple of months. She's asking about engagements. Am I ready for that? And that's a question I have to have with myself. That's a pressure. Um, and then how is that looking? How is if with this going how I would want it to go? Hoping. How is looking down the future, like with a family, going to be? How is moving into a house, because we're in an apartment right now, but how is moving into a house? Those are pressures that I thought about, but it wasn't pressure at the time because I was comfortable. But moving out into an apartment, I now those pressures have gotten a little tighter, little more condensed, and it's going to keep getting. It's not going to just like a hydraulic machine. It's not going to go up right now, like when somebody, God, does something. But it's just going to keep. It's until something either breaks or makes.
Right.
So
That's exactly right.
Those are definitely some of the pressures. I feel like I hit a good example. There's some daily pressures, but then there's also some long-term pressures. So managing which ones I can control, like the daily ones. I have a job, so I can manage, putting food on the table, making sure she's healthy, going to go get medicine. But the long-term ones, might not be a simple fix. That one might need some thought, some
Mm-hmm.
time. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. A lot of good context there, and that was also really vulnerable too. I would say you know a couple of thoughts crossed my mind as you were talking that I wanted to make sure to share with you, and then hopefully it blesses somebody who winds up seeing this later. Is there's a phrase I picked up from an old business buddy of mine, and we also went to school. Me and your mom went to school with him too.
Mhm.
His name is John Bush. Shout out,
Mhm.
because I know he'll see this later. But that dude put something in my head that stuck with me. Many things, but one thing that really stuck with me that I say to people all the time, and myself included, is flying is reserved to those who leap. So like the pressure you mentioned, that pressure change you clearly just articulated from when you were comfortable to when you got out the house and like started to see like, oh, these things are happening. And you started to also fly a little bit. And yeah, it's scary. And the winds are turbulent. And they'll send you topsy turvy a
Mhm.
lot. But you're still flying though. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't have flown had you not leaped. And leaving the house was a leap.
Mhm.
Getting engaged will be a leap. Having a child later will be a leap.
Mhm.
Taking a new job will be a leap. Wrapping up the schooling part of your life will be a leap. Like getting a certification of some sort, or whatever you want to do. Like all those things, making a big decision about a vehicle, a house, whatever it is. Like it's all leaps,
Mhm.
and you don't fly until you take those leaps. And I love that phrase. Like it reminds me whenever I'm faced with a risk or something I need to go really decide on, and I'm kind of like just hee hawing about it. I'm just procrastinating really because I don't want the
Yeah.
pressure. I remember that, and I just go, flying is reserved for those who leap, and I don't want to sit on the deck. I want to fly.
Mhm.
So, and nothing good has ever happened to me sitting on the deck. That doesn't mean I'm not I shouldn't be patient. I shouldn't talk to God and understand what He wants, but sometimes you as a man you have to
Mhm.
take those leaps, and they're really uncomfortable, and that is a pressure. It's when do you take those leaps, when do you not, like which leaps do you take,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes Satan will put a leap out there for you, you think it's good, and you jump out there and you lose everything, so
Mhm.
the grace of that is that there's always God to help you rebound and regain everything and then some, and he has done that for me multiple times over.
Mhm.
So something to think about there. But I think the other thing I heard you just say that was really, I think, applicable to anybody is when you're talking about like a relationship pressure in itself, you know, like deciding, when they get engaged and how that should go, and like all of that stuff. It's kind of reminiscent of, you want to get everything in order
Mhm.
before you make a leap. But the truth is, you really don't get to test the jets until you're in the air. So like you kind of have to, like honestly, just because you haven't been out of the house that long,
Mhm.
this is just be speaking vulnerably. You didn't have everything in order when you left the house,
Mhm.
but it's been fine. It doesn't mean it's been problem free,
Yeah.
but it's been fine. And you've been soaring, right? Like that. So that like is proof that you don't have to have everything buttoned up, be pressure free to leap. So the takeaway to that is, in your example, is like, you will actually never be pressure free
Mhm.
before you leap. You will have to leap in pressure.
Mhm.
It's never going to be pressure free. And I think that's important, because I thought for a long time, okay, I'll wait till there's no turbulence. The air is perfect. I'm ready. They're ready.
Mhm.
All the things around me are ready. The planets align. Then I'll leap. And I was just waiting. And I realized what I was waiting on. I actually wasn't really, I convinced myself I was waiting on things to align. I was waiting because I was afraid and I couldn't tolerate the pressure.
Mhm.
That's what I was waiting on. I was waiting for the pressure to stop. I wasn't waiting for things to line up. Oh, I'll get there. I'll get there. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Like that's really not what I was waiting on. But I didn't understand that. I thought that's what I was waiting on. Genuinely. Like I,
Mhm.
I thought it. And then eventually I realized it wasn't what I was waiting on, but it was what I had told everybody around me.
Yeah.
And then I had to, like, now I'm living two lives. Now I'm like, well, do I confess that I realized now it's not what it was?
Mhm.
And then like own that? Well, that's a leap. that confession to myself and to people around me that I'm close to, and then the change,
Hmm.
that in itself is a leap. Because you got to be real vulnerable to say, last 3 years, I really thought I was doing this. I was actually doing that, and that was wrong. So here's what I'm going to do about it.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to say because it's pride and like all these other things, like it's really hard to say.
Mhm.
So that's like those are all really good, I think, examples of what like the nuances of pressure. And they don't have to look like, my car is getting towed, I don't know what to do, and it's
Mhm.
something so explicit. Or I have a parent or a loved one that passed, and now that's a pressure. Like those are explicit pressures. Actually, most of our pressure is implicit. It's not obvious.
Yeah. And there was I was connecting little dots here, but we had a conversation, not me and you directly, but with one of my cousins, and I was overhearing it, and something like connected where you mentioned, and it ties into the example you just said, where you this this family member was saying like they just weren't ready for a certain
Mhm.
next stage in their life.
Mhm.
um, and I remember you said, and this has stuck with me since then, like, you will never be ready. Like,
Mhm.
no one's ready, whether that's being a parent, whether that's like trying to get a house, get a new car, you'll never be ready. Whatever ready is, you'll never be ready. Like, how do you prepare for your first kid? You have to have one.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that. And I know there were times definitely I had where I wanted to be ready. I wanted stuff like you said to be perfect, no turbulence wins.
Mhm.
And but I just had to go take the leap because
Mhm.
otherwise I would just stall. And I guess I kind of thought with that too, with it being perfect, tying into the pressure, I wanted the pressure to die down. I In my head, and it might just be a mental block, but in my head, it may have felt like the pressure was too much, and I want the pressure to lighten up. That's what I
Mm.
consider pressure lightening up equals I'm ready. So maybe that meant like, oh, I have a new job by then, or you know, money there, or I've matured, whatever
Mhm.
that is.
Mhm.
So that to me would be like, oh, the pressure is lightening up, so now I'm ready. But just like how we talked about and how life has been showing me, like, no, the pressure will still be there. You will not be ready.
Right.
It's just how can you manage that pressure and what will you become from that pressure?
That last part is the key that you just said. Like that is the pinnacle of how you summarize what you just said. It's not that like do you have pressure or not? It's what will you become of the pressure. Like
Mhm.
like you're going to have pressure because life be life. Like
Yes.
it's gonna life. Like it's just gonna do its thing, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. So then, similar to your life, just your general life experience around people, you decide how you respond to people. You decide how you respond to pressure, like 100%. And the thing that comes to mind too that I really don't want to forget to mention is there's when you think about you use pressure in a tactile context a couple times, like you used like did like this, like things condense, and
Mhm.
and that's a good way to define pressure. Another good way to define pressure is like in a pipe. So like pressure builds in a pipe. Imagine the water flowing into the pipe is life. Life ain't gonna stop because if it does, you got another problem.
Mhm.
You want life to keep going.
Yeah.
So life's gonna keep life in, and then that pressure, the input is not gonna slow down,
Mhm.
right? So then the only thing that relieves pressure in a pipe is a valve.
Mhm.
The only thing that relieves pressure in a pipe is a valve, and valves don't turn themselves. So
Yep.
you are the one that turns the valve. And so, meaning that it takes an intentional action to lessen your pressure. And
Mhm.
the only person that can lessen that pressure is you. And turning the valve could be looking at it differently, challenging yourself to take a different look, on a different outlook on the situation. It could be um, not procrastinating. You might know what you need to do, and you just don't want to do it because it's going to be hard.
Mhm.
But flying is reserved for those who leap. So like you just got to get out there and do it and let it go how it's going to go and respond to that. but that is an action. That's turning of the valve, lighten the pressure.
Yeah.
There's the third thing that I wanted to jump into is kind of a transition point, is the other type of pressure. I think young men and I think young women, I think everyone falls victim to this, the pressure of comparison.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of conversations about that over the years,
Hmm.
as have I had with Gabriel and with Mia, because we're all human, and we all fall victim to it in different ways. But when we compare ourselves to others, it is the thief of joy. The Bible says, like, it is a terrible habit,
Hmm.
but it's something all of us do, because we're all on this all day, and we're looking like, oh, well, what's Kevin Hart doing, or what's so and so doing, or
Yeah.
what's she doing, or oh, look at so and so, they're at the game. I wish I was at the game, or man, that looks cool. And you might not say those things explicitly, but the thoughts are there. The thoughts are there, like, why am I not there, or how do I get there?
Hmm.
How do I get where they're at is a very similar thought, not exact, but very similar thought to, like I want what they have. It can go from admiration to jealousy and envy very quickly, and you might not realize it.
Hmm.
So I think that comparison part is real. Like, people, you even set an example of it where you feel pressure, or you feel reverse pressure of comparison, because you feel like you're an informal lead to your friends of what they're going to do. So that means that they're looking at you in that example, and they're comparing themselves to you, and they're saying, I should be where Chris is
Hmm.
in some form. Like, I
Yeah.
should be at that stage, or I should get to that stage by this time.
Hmm.
And when you start to compare, you start to put expectations on yourself that might not be your journey.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like they, I got out of the house at 17,
Hmm.
just because statute of limitations is gone and can't nobody sue me or sue the apartment complex. I definitely paid somebody to sign my name and sign that I was 18
Hmm.
in the office to let me have an apartment. Like straight up lied to
Hmm.
get, I just and then my home life was fine.
Yeah.
I took care of my mom and stuff, but like my home life wasn't burdensome to the degree where I was running away from something. I
Yeah.
wanted out. I wanted out. And I was out before anybody I knew, as far as being on their own. I wasn't in college. I was paying all my own bills, taking care of myself fully,
Hmm.
and still helping, my mom at the time at 17, 18. And I remember feeling like I went from I wanted to get out and I was focused and chasing on a vision that I had, to feeling immediately like, crap. I have a couple of friends that are giving me commentary about, well, they're ready to get out too, but I can tell they're not ready to get out.
Hmm.
But they're like looking at me thinking that they need to get out, and they hadn't worked full time yet. I worked full time all through high school,
Hmm.
literally all through high school. So it's like you might not be ready for that.
Hmm.
And honestly, when I moved out, I realized I wasn't ready for that per se. But I just had to your point, because you're never ready. But I just had to, like, grow into it. And
Yeah.
and that pressure, like, when you said that, it took me all the way back to then. Like, I didn't even realize I was recognizing that pressure until you just said that.
Hmm.
Like, you helped me realize something I experienced at 17, 18. I didn't even know I experienced. And those friends, there was definitely some pressure on them, and I don't even think it was explicit to them either.
Yeah.
But even right now, to this day, I have a couple of really close friends from
Hmm.
from church and from school, and I would say, and we're all close. There's probably 4 or 5 of them, and we're all close for different reasons. And I love every one of them, and I know they love me too. And when we talk, sometimes I'll still hear a comment of like, like, I'm gonna get where you're at right now, or how did you get that, or how did you do that?
Hmm.
And that can be a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
can be a whole lot of pressure, because then it's like, well, but what are they gonna say when, not if, because life be life, and I'm gonna screw up. So what are they gonna say when I screw up? Are they
Yeah.
gonna feel the same? And I think the answer is, most people only see what you do really well most of the time. I'm not saying all,
Hmm.
most of the time. Alternatively, most of the time when you screw up, you magnify your screw up in your brain. No one else knows you did it. And most of the time, no one else cares.
Yep.
And that kind of actually is a little bit of a forecast of the tool that I would suggest.
Mhm.
It's like, don't over magnify your screw up or a bad decision. And when I say screw up, like it could be a really bad decision accidentally, it could be an intentional bad decision because you fell victim to some temptation or whatever it is, big, small. Most of the time, your indecision or bad decision is mostly recognizable by you. It's not recognizable by everybody else. And that doesn't mean hide it. My point is because you should seek out some help with it. But my point is that like you can make yourself feel like crap
Oh,
and make yourself think or feel that you're not a good role model or you're not leading well because people are looking at you, which is leadership. It is leadership. You don't have to have a role and a title to be a leader. Like if you're a friend and you and every friend is this in their friend group about something.
mhm.
Like something they do, the friend group is looking at them going, "Oh man, that's cool that they can do that." Or I want to be able to do something like that
Mhm.
at some point. So they're comparing, but then when that same friend makes a mistake or it doesn't go well or loses a gig or loses a job or things don't work out or they lose or they make a bad financial decision or they break up with a girl that was great or break up with a guy that was great. Whenever that happens, most people don't see how you see it. Like you see it the worst.
Yeah.
Most people are like, oh, okay, that happens. Like they only are gonna really see the good things. You know why they're gonna you know why I say that?
Why?
Get my phone out again. What do you see when you go to your phone? Do you see people posting all their mistakes?
No, they're always posting their accomplishments.
And that's
Or yeah.
and that's how the world sees it too.
Mm.
So it's not my words.
Yeah.
It's proof right here. You see it every day. Nobody's posting online about, man, I made $2,000. I had this gig. I was selling, I'll use me and Mark as an example, just to not point at anybody else. Me and Mark, we're working on a clothing brand that Mark's had out for a while. est33clothing.com. Check it out. So if you so like we're working on that, and it's Mark's brainchild. It is his calling. It's a part of his ministry, and I love him for it, and I think it's fantastic. So I've been supporting him on it, and then we're out doing it. Let's say we go do a gig, and gig meaning we show up and we're selling a merchandise, right? So we're selling merchandise, and let's say we paid $1,500 to be a part of it between inventory and sponsorship, and we sell $1,500 and we break even. We don't even make any money, right? One could argue, like Mark might come to me because this is how hard Mark is on himself. He might come to me and say, "Hey man, like that. I wish that event had been better. Like that event was a fail. We did all that work. We were here all day or a day and a half, and we didn't make a dime in profit,
Mhm.
right?" And he's gonna look at that the worst. And he might think his wife is looking at it that way, his kids are looking at it that way, I'm looking at it that way, and that Mark's a failure.
Mhm.
That might be how he sees it because the pressure he will put on himself. I can tell you right now that hasn't happened, but because fortunately, thank God, like we made a profit on any event that we've done, and we've been selective about those. But if that happened, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't look at it that way
Yeah.
because I would look even if we lost a little money, I would look at it like number one, we flying is reserved for those who lead. We went in there flying, understanding that part of flying is that you might hit the ground.
Mhm.
The key is I'm willing to climb back up to that cliff and jump back off again.
Mhm.
So to learn how to fly. So like I'm good hitting the ground. My whole life has been hitting the ground. Like that's fine. I'm ready to do that because I want to spend as much time in the air as possible. And if I never get back to the top of the cliff, I can't jump anymore. So I'm good. Just I know that's the cycle. I've accepted that. So if we go out there and we lose $500, so what did we learn? What are we going to do differently the next time because we had that experience? Because we would have never learned that thing had we not lost that $500. So like on the way back up, I'm thinking about, so how should I do my wings again to make sure I can fly? Or did I jump out too far? Did I not jump far enough? Did I not jump high enough?
Mhm.
Was I timid? Did I go in it playing not to win instead of playing to win, or playing not to lose rather instead of playing to win? Like
Mhm.
how did I go in? Then like now I'm back up to the top of the cliff. I had time to think about it, process it. in that example, me and Mark had time to process it, and we're gonna jump again.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, I want to do that as fast as possible. I want to be back to the top of that cliff and jump as fast as possible. You heard the old saying, like when you fall off a bike, the best thing you can do is get back on that sucker fast and start riding, because the fear is like, if you sit with that fear, you'll never get back on.
Mhm.
You'll never get back on. And that, I think that example is like something we face all the time. We might screw up, or we may have this mistake, or we had this setback. Maybe even it's not our screw up, it just happens. And we don't, like, we get afraid,
Mhm.
and we blame, like we see it so negatively. It's like you're just magnifying the negativity. It's not even near as bad as you think. Just
Yeah.
just do what you can and get back to the top of the cliff.
And I've learned how to, over time. It
Hmm.
wasn't instant, but I've learned how to deal with, I call that like the self pressure.
Hmm.
I learned how to deal with that through me being a musician. So there will be concerts or
Hmm.
even some of my Instagram posts, just like how you said, those are my accomplishments, right? I'll maybe post a drumming video. But even in my accomplishments, I'm still hyper fixated on, oh man, like no one else might be a drummer. Like, they might
Hmm.
not hear you. They're just like, wow, Chris, you sound good. But I'm like, no, I could have been cleaner right here on this
Hmm.
note. I could have brought this hit out, or I could have, whatever it could have been. I could have looked better. There will always be something if I'm hyper fixated on there being a problem. When the overall goal was, hey, I got a drumming video out. Hey, I just performed a concert and it didn't crash and burn. It went from started
Yep,
and
A to
ended.
Z. Yeah.
Yeah, and it ended. It could have crashed and burned. Were there some mess ups in there? Absolutely. But did I accomplish what I need to, which was, can I get through the piece? Can I post and not be afraid to think what people are going to think of me
Hmm.
on there? Because I'm just going to be so hyper fixated, I might not even want to post
Hmm.
what is an accomplishment, because I will find in that accomplishment something that's always wrong. I might be like, "Ah, the audio is messed up. Now I don't want to post it." And now me not posting it might have just stopped me from a gig.
Hmm.
You never know what it could stop you from, but that self pressure you have, and always being hyper fixated on, like you said, wanting to keep that valve shut
Hmm.
and not just letting it, like, everyone else is seeing the valve go through fine. You're
Hmm.
thinking this one valve being closed off is going to burst the whole pipe. But
Hmm.
there are other valves.
Right.
If you keep those other ones open and keep the pressure where it needs to be,
Correct.
you know,
It's
if
a choice.
yeah.
It's a personal choice. And something you said kind of is a good dovetail into us going into how we wrap up with solutions and suggestions on, how to handle. Because what I just heard you say is like one of them is like, don't be your own pressure creator,
Yeah.
right? Because like life, because again, life's gonna life on you, so it's gonna create its own pressure. Like that part, you do not need to add to your own pressure, but we do it all the time. We do it all the time, and it's like, don't do that. And the way that you, and it's easy for us to sit here and say like, don't do that, but
Right.
like the way you recognize you're doing it is, are you holding back on the decisions that you should make to progress your life? And if you're holding back, you're creating your own pressure by indecision, right? Like procrastination is a pressure cooker. You are creating your own pressure by just not getting out there and doing it, afraid of what people are going to think, or afraid of failing, oftentimes even afraid of succeeding, and
Mhm.
what comes with that. Because more pressure, you may see that as more pressure, right? So because a lot of us want like goodness, but we don't, like, we want a nice car, but we don't want the car note, and we don't want the maintenance bill, and we don't want the gas and the insurance, and like we just want a nice car. Well, it's like, well, all those things come with it.
Mhm.
So if you want those things, you have to understand that there's some pressures that come with it. And instead of creating your own pressure by seeing those as negatives, see them as a net positive. You're still getting a car. If you got to do these things along the way, you're still up a car,
Mhm.
or up a house, or up whatever it is, like a job.
Mhm.
Okay, well, this job is a lot harder. I got to work a lot more. Okay, but you're up a job though.
Mhm.
There's people that ain't working and can't work that would love to be in your position. So it's like all of these things. Like, you just don't be your own self pressure creator, and recognize when you're doing that through like a self assessment. Like, just self assess, look yourself in the figurative mirror, and
Mhm.
understand, like, am I creating my own, my own pressure? Like the example you gave on music. Music is an awesome example of this, by the way. There is no musical piece that has ever been played in life that is played to perfection. There is no such thing. And yet, the best orchestras sound like perfection. They sound like God manifested into music, but they all recognize what they screwed up.
Mhm.
Somebody like me who has no musical ear at all is like, I don't even understand how y'all just made that sound.
Mhm.
Like that sounds amazing. And I think that when I look at your when I look at your percussion posts or your or any type of post you put out, like a concert, anything, I'm just like, that sounds great. And and occasionally, if I hear you talk to your mom or you talk to me, the first thing you bring up is what you did wrong.
Yep.
And it's like, that's a self-created pressure.
Mhm.
Like why? And we have to recognize in that the other tool, we have to recognize in that self-created pressure that we are made perfectly imperfect.
Mhm.
And like, to question that is really just to question God. And I'm not going to put anything else behind that. To question that is to question God.
Mhm.
Now, who are we to question God? He made you perfectly imperfected. Like in the world, we are imperfect, but in Him, we are perfect. So why are you focused on what's wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, period. Like that's that. And men, we're terrible at that because we are problem solvers. So we have an eye and an ear and a mind to identify problems. So everything we see, we are going to notice imperfections, and that's okay. Like I think that's also what helps us recognize Satan. It's a form of discernment.
Mhm.
So it helps us recognize when we're being attacked. But like, don't turn that radar on you. Like,
Yeah.
don't turn it on you. That's supposed to help you navigate life and the
Mhm.
world and Satan, and to recognize when God is present and to do what He's directing,
Mhm.
or to do what's in your heart. Like, it's not to like turn it on yourself and to make it some type of mirror with nasty red marks all over it. Like, that's not what it's for. But
Mhm.
we use it for that, and we have to be really thoughtful and careful daily not to do that. Like at the end of every day,
Mhm.
another tool I would suggest is at the end of every day, any person, like man or woman, this is not just for men when I say this, take a moment. And if you journal, like, do this in your journal. If you don't journal, start journaling. Um, but it is a self therapy. It's a self pressure valve. Release the pressure. Write it down. In your moment, think about or journal. What did I do well today? And if you add something after that, like, but I could have done this better, I'm gonna come find you. So like, don't do that. Like,
Mhm.
just put a period at the end. Write the word, write the phrase or the question, or yeah, your phrase or question. What I did well today was, or what did I do well today? And then just write it. If it's a word, if it's like, I showed up and I didn't want to, I got up and I'm lazy and I'm thankful that I fought that to get up this morning and I did X, Y, and Z because I got up.
Mhm.
Or I ate right today. I exercised this morning. I went for a walk. Um, I went to work today and I kept a good attitude all day, despite what I encountered. Um, I paid all my bills today. I planned my budget. I spent quality time with my daughter. Me and my wife went on a date. I put $50 aside and I started this routine because I'm gonna start some savings. Whatever, just simple stuff,
Mhm.
and put a period at the end of that sucker and close your book and do that daily. Within a very short period of time, you're going to have a long list of all the reasons you are not a piece of crap, that you
Mhm.
should be thankful for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to have 30 days and you're going to look back and go, I did all those things.
30 accomplishments. Yeah.
I did all those things. And every day you don't just have one, but you just write one.
Mhm.
So you got at least 30 accomplishments that are written.
Mhm.
And you can reflect back on that and recognize you are worth it. Like, you do not deserve unnecessary pressure. And that That's yourself. Like that is to me, I think that would be a really good self-management valve. Um, by the way, I'm not taking any credit for that tool. Like somebody imparted that to me. And man, I've used it since. And it's really helpful. It's really helpful. It also helps me when I'm facing pressure. It helps me recognize that I can overcome that pressure. Because look what I did for the last 30 days.
Hmm.
So pressure, you're not gonna tempt me into thinking I don't know what to do. And you're not gonna tempt me into BSing my way through like, oh well, I can't overcome that or it's just too much. No, it's not.
Hmm.
Because I just overcame it 30 times at least in the last month. Or 10 or 15, however many times I logged. But guess what? It's more than zero. So then I know I can overcome it. So then I'm gonna overcome it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like pressure is gonna make me either turn the valve or endure. Like it's one of the two. Because I got a list that tells me I can do that.
Hmm.
And it's proof. And nobody wrote it but me. Like so I put it in there so I know it's right. I know it's true. And that I think is I'm saying it like it's all positive. I understand there is some challenging feeling in that because then as you go through that process for that first month, you would now have to face and accept that you have been BSing yourself this entire time.
Hmm.
I'm not naive to that experience because I have that experience. And I say have because I still have it. Because I'm human. I'm still gonna be tempted to not do that.
Hmm.
And I have to go back and like, no, I was just being sorry. That's what it was. Because I just proved I could do it the last 6 months worth of notes. So what am I talking about right now? Okay. So I've been procrastinating for the last week. I'm not gonna do that anymore. So today I'm gonna get that thing done so that I can write it down tonight.
Hmm.
That's gonna be my win. I'm gonna get that thing done. And I might say that for 4 days. I'm gonna get that thing done. And I keep procrastinating. I'm gonna get that thing done. And then like Thursday, I got it done. Like, oh, that's gonna feel so good to write that. And maybe nobody ever even sees it.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, you will see that you have done enough to be recognized by yourself. Like you recognize you. If other people recognize you, great. But that should not be our driver because that is a self-created pressure.
Hmm.
The only person that you're trying to make sure is true to him or herself is you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And you know, it's funny. I always think they're coincidences, but I know they're not because I'm a believer in God and Christ. But there was a there was an Instagram post this morning, and didn't you sent me the notes about it
Mm-hmm.
last night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, got nothing ever related to this on Instagram ever. My feed is food and drums, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this morning, the first or second, it might have been the second, but the first post on my feed today was a Tyrese clip, and I hope I quote it right. But I love how he started with this. He says, "God loves me." That's what he starts with. God loves me. God loves whoever him, in that instance. God
Mm-hmm.
loves me. And he says that God doesn't want comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Like like you said, comparison's the thief of joy. And he was like, God is happy where he's placed me. That's where he wants me at that moment. Doesn't need to be like someone might have a doctorate at
Mm-hmm.
22,
Mm-hmm.
that might not be his calling. But he mentioned, he was like, with the comparison, God has shown him that's a ceiling.
Right.
That's not, like that might not be his ceiling, but that is a ceiling. He's shown me what's possible, but that might not. It could be if that's what he wants to strive for. But Tyrese was saying that's not where God wants me. God wants me right here. God wants me on that podcast he was doing,
Mm-hmm.
giving this speech. You know, he God wants everyone to be where they are, and that was also a good, like, I liked it and saved it. It's gonna be a good daily reminder, and that's sometimes what I need, like, or what other people might need, just a daily reminder of like, you know what, where I am, not comparing my friends, not comparing even my girlfriend and my
Mm-hmm.
relationship,
Mm-hmm.
not comparing to my siblings, not comparing to my
Mm-hmm.
parents or how they grew up, not comparing to the church, to
Mm-hmm.
wherever the environment is, not comparing that I'm on my path where I need to be. Doesn't mean I need to like just stop and be like, okay,
Correct.
if I feel like I want to, move on, keep like you said, jump off that cliff.
Hmm.
But to not downplay that where I am is right where God needs me to be. Because that that might be the way, the I don't want to say the only way, but it might be the way he wants you to go.
Yeah.
He might sorry, he might want you to maybe instead of doing the college path, he might want you to work, and you might
Hmm.
build a different character than that. Or
Hmm.
he might want you to stay in school, and he might want you to gain more knowledge.
Hmm.
It's all different paths of how he knows what's the best growth for you.
Right.
And so for me or for Tyrese, he loves that, and he will always love that. And just like you said, he's keeping the daily reminders. He's not gonna when it's time, God's not gonna be like, oh well, you missed this note at this
Right.
concert. He's gonna be like, wow, you were a great musician. Like you really grew that character,
Hmm.
that was your calling. That's what I had planned for you, and you did it, you know. You're a great father figure, great um leader to other men, And so when he gets there, he's not gonna be like, oh well, you didn't save this guy. He
Hmm.
might not have. He's gonna be like, no, you did what I called you to do, and you did it to the best of your ability and how
Hmm.
he wanted you to do it.
Hmm.
So it's just like those daily reminders. Don't put the pressure of someone else's ceiling on your ceiling. That might
Right.
not be it. That their valve might be a valve with like three cranks and stuff. That
Hmm.
your valve might be a single crank. That for that pressure, but
Right.
that's still comparing it. It's like you think you can handle someone else's valve and someone else's pressure. You don't know,
Yeah. That's right.
and you just need to handle what's in front of you and handle like, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I'm capable of,
Hmm.
and be okay with that. The hard part I've been finding out is being okay with that sometimes. Like, you know what? I may not have I may not have graduated on the time I felt like I should have been,
Hmm.
but I'm okay with that because I'm learning things and growing that it's going to help me in the future, and I know for sure will help somebody else because I want to be a teacher.
That's right.
So I know for sure, like I'm more happy I went down this path because who knows what encounter
Agreed.
there might be someone else that has a similar path, and they might be scared of like, hey, like I see everybody else, their ceiling is this high, and I'm like, "Yeah, I
I've
I
been there.
yeah,
Like.
I've been there,
Hmm.
and I've been comparing myself, but the moment and it, like you said, you hit it right on the nail. It's not an easy thing. Even there are some days, even still, it comes, and some days are harder than most. Where it's like, man, it's really hitting a day that I'm not where I feel like I should. But then, I pray. That's
Hmm.
just what I do. But I pray, and I'm just like, wow, he got me right where he want me to be.
Hmm.
Like, guess what? I can still go play drums even if it's not at a Grammy Award show,
Right.
I can go play for y'all in the
Right.
backyard or something. And guess what? I'm gonna still feel just as happy there playing for y'all, playing for my gift, as I would if I was
On a stage
on a
somewhere. Yeah.
stage somewhere. Even at my school concerts, I feel joy of playing anywhere I go.
Hmm.
And and that's the self love that we I feel like we need to start having. So
Agreed.
self love helps and goes a long way.
There's the final tool for you. I think so. Self love and not shorting changing yourself is huge. I'll wrap us up with this. We're perfect on time, so I'm gonna wrap us up with this and use your some of your analogy.
Mhm.
Something to consider, like when you think about one additional tool is like just how you look at things. Something to consider is when you see a masterpiece or you hear a masterpiece, what do you think? It's not yours. It's not your masterpiece. You listen to someone else play, or you see a masterpiece created by someone else. What do you think when you look at it? It's a masterpiece, right? Like that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Wow, what talent! That masterpiece is created very similarly to how our lives and our journey, like you just said, is created with God, and it's unique to us with God. Imagine your hand being held with a paintbrush and you are creating a masterpiece. Okay. Blank canvas. God is the one that has the vision of what that canvas should look like and what others should get from that canvas, how that canvas should impact the world. You are the only one holding the paintbrush, though. God's not. God is holding your hand, and He is talking to you as much as you are willing to listen to Him and have a relationship with Him about what the paint stroke should look like, what colors, what you're trying to paint, what your vision is. And sometimes, like most really talented artists, the masterpiece doesn't happen in 10 minutes. The masterpiece gets created on one canvas over 10 years. Multiple strokes, they stop because their vision gets unclear, and they come back to it when the vision's clear. Like God is just guiding you. And when we go do our own thing, we get away from His vision, and we're putting permanent paint strokes on that masterpiece. Permanent. You can't take off the red stripe like it's or gray stripe where He wanted green. Like you can't undo that. So imagine that's happening, and we're painting, and then I get back in line with Him. I'm letting Him guide my hand. I'm listening, and then I'm doing my own thing, and I'm letting Him guide my hand. I'm doing my own thing. But now, fast forward 10 years, the masterpiece is complete. I have made mistakes and made my own strikes. I mean, you may already know where I'm going with this to wrap up. When you see it, you will see a masterpiece. You won't see where I got misaligned from God. You won't see where I did my own thing and I wasn't listening to Him. You won't see all of the pauses and the fear and the crying because I don't know what to do, and the happiness because I found the strike and it looks great to me. And then I recognize, oh, that's actually not the strike that God wanted me to take, though. So, okay. But it's all permanent. It's all part of the masterpiece. The end result is something you can't determine. No one else can determine what it was supposed to be. As far as they're concerned, all they see is what is. And the assumption is that's what it was supposed to be. Because it's a masterpiece. And it looks beautiful because it's not yours. Because you can recognize your own flaws all the time, because that's what we're wired to look at. Other people recognize our talent, not our flaws. And that's what we have to remember. Is like your masterpiece is just yours, and it includes your greatness and your mistakes along the way. And everyone else is still going to see it's a masterpiece. And God also still calls it a masterpiece. So why don't you? Why don't you accept that you made a masterpiece, or that you're making a masterpiece? Accept it. You are part of a masterpiece. You are a masterpiece. So then why are you creating all this pressure on yourself like you're some trashed canvas? If you're breathing, you're a masterpiece in creation. Be a part of the freaking creation. And it's okay as you make a strike here and there. It's okay. Unless you're gonna, like, starting over is you being reborn. Like you unless you're doing that, you're not gonna have a new canvas. But it's gonna be a masterpiece anyway. Those mess ups are part of it. The squeaks in the orchestra is part of the whole masterpiece. Like, it turns out, though, you're like mind blown because you heard the orchestra play this piece. Yeah, they played it imperfectly. But the person who wrote it hears like all of this goodness, and you got to hear and see your goodness, right? And be willing to do that. So hopefully that analogy helps, and I really hope and pray that anybody who's listening got something out of me and Chris talking and having a good conversation. Again, I love you, and I thank you for being a part of this. I did pull Chris in kind of short notice too, like less than a day or two. So I'm thankful that you were willing to jump in, and really hopeful and prayerful that this blesses somebody. So y'all have a great Saturday. Thanks for joining or for watching later, and we'll catch you on the next Two Brothers Talking. We'll see you.